Paul, check it out. Check it out. Look what I found. Yeah, DP? It's an official ghost trap. I thought if we open it, maybe we can find the remains of your original channel. Wait, really? Where did you get that? Oh, would you believe me if I said I got it from Professor Egad? Maybe? Fine. Just open it up and let's see what we can find. Alright. Let's check this baby out. DP, that's a picture of a payphone. Maybe I had it on the wrong setting. Oh, here we go. Now it'll show us a real ghost. DP, that's a picture of Alfred when he had brown hair and was less self-absorbed. This thing worked yesterday. Maybe it's because I stepped on it. Give me that. Here, I'll show you how this works. You hold it out like this. Wait for the light. Put on appropriate safety gear. And... Ah!
Oh, fuck. What day is it? Oh, shit. This is Zeldy for the Tree. Happy anniversary, you two.
Hi, it is Kieran from the YouTube channel Kieran Isabel and the Instagram Kieran_artist, and I am here to wish Paul a happy 3-year anniversary for his channel on YouTube. I want to say thank you for trusting me, making your art come alive and featuring it a lot on your YouTube channel and like your thumbnails. So cheers to many more years on your YouTube journey. Peace.
Yo, this is Big Ounce. I'm here to wish Paul Westerfield, congratulate him on 3 years on YouTube. Those are 3 epic years. I hope there's many more coming, man. You've been a real one, and good luck to you.
Hey, Awesome64 here, also known as Odd, and happy 3rd anniversary to you, Paul and PAULK.
So it's come to this, folks. Tomorrow, 7 a.m., Masahiro Sakurai is going to reveal the final character for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fires Past Volume 1. It's been a long road. From that first reveal trailer, all the way back with the Inklings, finding out the game wasn't a port, to everyone that was revealed. It sure has been a long road. 3 friggin' years. I started my channel January 15th of 2020 with a 2-part video talking about Fighters Pass 1 as it came to an end, with Byleth from Fire Emblem Three Houses revealed the following day for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. In that video, I talked about how my two most wanted characters for Smash Bros. Was Conquer the Red Squirrel and Cuphead. The following day, I made a scathing video about how upset I was, like everyone else, that we had yet another human anime sword fighter in the game from a franchise infamously overstuffed into Smash Brothers. And then I praised the fact that a Mii costume of Cuphead was in the game. I made no claims that I directly predicted it. But I predicted it. From that point, after those 2 days, began one of the most fascinating experiences of my entire life thus far. And then I forcibly tried to make that experience end. In the middle of August of 2020, months after, I attempted to delete my entire channel as best as I could. The exact word I used for it is purge. I tried to purge everything on my channel entirely, including the original videos. And I still take full ownership for not only what an asinine choice it was, and how little it positively affected me in any circumstance, but how intensely and how cowardly a move it was in the process. Roughly 3 weeks later, overwhelmed with guilt and stress over it, I decided to undertake a new path, and I utilized one of my favorite phrases of all time. Climb over your corpse and get better. With what little videos I had left that I hadn't fully deleted, extremely few from my original channel, all of the rest permanently lost to time and the Google archives, I attempted to start anew. I lasted 2 months before accidentally going on a 4-month hiatus due to being way too busy with other things. I got done with that 4-month hiatus, and I came back, and I worked my ass off. I got so much new ideas, new videos, new concepts, new series. And I was happy that I had finally found a better path than the one I ended too quickly. But a new price came to collect, one that I knew had been a factor since the very beginning. I was doing YouTube, like all things, through my Google account. A Google account through my district. And graduating in 2 years when I started my channel meant that there was no way to transfer that to a new account because it was a school district account. So there was no way for it to be transferred. So with a broken and grim heart, I did everything I could. This time not to purge, but to bridge. Not to abandon ship, but to switch ships. And start all over again on an account that was truly my own. In May of 2022, I recorded my final video on the channel that started it all. I re-uploaded all that I could, all that I wanted to, all that made sense to me. And now we're here. January 15th, 2023. What I still consider, after everything that's happened, the 3rd year anniversary of Paul Westerfield on YouTube. Do I regret it? Parts of it, of course. But I don't regret starting this path. I don't regret undertaking this. I don't regret standing up against the mistakes I made and pushing on from it. I don't regret continuing on when everything else seemed to be out to get me and everything else seemed to be out to stop me. Because I had people, I had fans, and I had friends. I had such incredible friends since the very beginning, beyond me starting, who were behind me, who supported me, and who saw the good in me even when I couldn't. And because of them, I'm able to sit here today and celebrate. This video is personally dedicated to the original 8. K L A E J S N and H. They know who they are. And I can't say thank you enough, guys. Without you, I never would have made it. Let's start this. This is a retrospective, reflection, and celebration of 3 years of YouTube content. The highs, the lows, everything in between, and what all just makes it tick. Welcome to Paul Westerfield, featuring PAULK. Thank you all for believing and supporting me. I'll make sure I earn it. There's a lot of influences in who got me to start doing YouTube. No one personally encouraged me. I decided to do it myself. There's a lot of people who I watch and who I formerly saw that have inspired me to get here. And the YouTuber Verbal Ace is unquestionably one of them. I've ended up discussing this a lot today, but Verbal Ace is one of the most important factors in my channel when he isn't even physically a part of it. There are so many YouTubers since I started getting into YouTube in the 7th grade that have become such an influence to me in one way or another. And it all just ties together into part of what inspires me. I try to make sure I'm not directly copying anyone and really bring my own unique style to the table. And I owe it to all of them for sure to have given me some of the way to go. I have changed recording locations a lot. I wanted to get to discuss part of where some of my first recordings were, but unfortunately I couldn't get footage from where it all began at my former school, where both Quick Dancings and my channel itself was born. You can find that location in several of my re-uploaded videos, but I couldn't give any new footage of it for this today. There are 2 locations I was able to discuss a little about, and you'll get to see them in just a minute. Today I'm going to be discussing the origin of some of the series on this channel, a couple of my bigger influences and how much they mean to me, and the other characters I feature on this channel and perform, where they began, and why it's so important to me that they continue to be a part of it. This won't be very joke heavy or especially positive, because a lot of my more reflective pieces aren't, in case it wasn't obvious. There also probably won't be a lot of editing. It's editing enough, splicing all the pieces together. It is what it is. It is all part of becoming better, growing beyond, and becoming better than what we formerly were. I believe you can't throw away your past, but you can't let it consume you either. Only by learning from the past can you teach your future self to become better. And there's plenty that I've been taught for quite a long while. This is the Foundry in Logan, Colorado. This was where I saw Sonic the Hedgehog 2020, a close friend of mine, which ended up being the first movie I ever reviewed on my channel. Like many videos, that one is no longer available, but it holds a very special place in my heart, as this is where I saw it, and that was one of what would start a lot of videos on my channel on a very special topic. As many of my older fans will remember, this is where a lot of my videos got filmed, especially in the first year of doing YouTube. This spot was where my Sonic poster I got from the Foundry when I saw it for the first time used to hang, and it was then replaced by a very special mural that was shown in some of my later videos that you can see in a couple of my tasting sessions. This spot is of my old room, and I've done a lot of videos in here. Just happened to be a good spot to record when we went to quarantine. It brings back a lot of memories being in here, and it definitely reminds me of a different time. There really isn't a place outside of the first place I ever started recording that reminds me of the old days as much as being here. Both the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. While Cuphead is unquestionably one of the most important video games in my entire life, if not the most important, all things considered, and the absolute center of how I got into YouTube in the first place, I personally feel that Sonic the Hedgehog, overall as a franchise, has been the most important franchise in my channel outside of Smash Brothers. Before my channel started, my viewpoint and experience with Sonic was fluctuating like a lot of people's does. Just between, I like this, I hate this, they're screwing up this, I like that they did this. It was a lot of back and forth. But especially because of when I started my channel, the Sonic the Hedgehog movie was going to come out in a month, and I was genuinely very excited after that second trailer and the redesign. And everything that you've heard of a million times already, it was just a huge step in the right direction for me. And like I said, that Valentine's Day weekend is one of the most important moments of my entire YouTube career. I went to see the Sonic movie. I want to say Saturday afternoon. It was either Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon of Valentine's Day weekend with one of my closest friends, LD for the Tree, who you saw earlier. I loved the movie. When I first saw it, I was really impressed. I really enjoyed it, and it holds a special place as the first movie I ever reviewed on my channel. I definitely don't love the movie as much as I did for a variety of reasons, and one of those being how much I genuinely love the sequel. But that alone was a major stepping point into just how much Sonic has become a part of my life again and how much it means to me. A little while after the movie, one of my closest friends gave me a book right before the pandemic hit, right before spring break and before the pandemic hit in 2020. And that book was Sonic the Hedgehog Bonds of Friendship by IDW Publishing. This was my first exposure to the IDW Sonic the Hedgehog comics line. It's a type of mini collection that just takes a few different issues into one smaller book, but it was my first exposure to that series. I stand by it's one of the best comic series I've ever read in my life. I constantly refer to it as the IDW Sonic series. I cannot express enough how much this book series means to me. I own nearly every single volume, and I intend to fully own it up until April, once I get back on track. But just that and the Sonic movie together just juiced me up with so much newfound love and appreciation for this franchise. And as time went on, I just slowly started to appreciate Sega more and more, while continuing to have my downward spiral that I currently have with Nintendo, in terms of as a company and as a member of their fan base. And so much of it was built, a lot of my first year was talking about video games, and Sonic became a chief partner of them. I have made multiple videos about the Sonic movie franchise. My ideas, my intentions, what I like about them, why I think works so well, what I think they should do in the future. And there really isn't much else I can add. Yet every single time, I find something new to add. So I really needed to make sure I said that now. Because Sonic the Hedgehog was not only the first video game I can ever remember. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was the first video game I can ever remember playing in my entire life. And the franchise means so much to me now that I had to give it special credit in this. No matter what happens in the franchise, good, bad, no matter what happens next, I still stand by that I am a hardcore Sonic fan now. I stand behind Sega. I stand behind this fan base. I defend it against those who would insult it, demean it, who stereotype us, who joke about us, who insult us, who accuse us, who demean us. I stand by this franchise, and I stand by with this fan base because it means too much to me. Because as a Sonic fan, we are undefeatable. We have gotten up from so much when everyone, including the people who made him, have seemed to knock us down or tossed us aside. And that kind of tenacity that we, as fans, and Sega and Sonic as a franchise, really have, is genuinely inspiring. So much has happened to Sonic as a character and as a franchise in so many different avenues, no less. And yet we still get up from it. And we don't just get up from it, we learn from our mistakes. We own up to our mistakes, and we embrace our mistakes. Sega does not pretend Sonic 06 never happened. They don't pretend Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric never happened. We own up to our mistakes as Sonic fans. We wear them on our chest. Zola once said in One Piece, "Wounds on the back are a swordman's shame." That is Nintendo. Nintendo brushes aside its failures. It jumps quickly to what it has next, if it even has an impact on them at all. They ignore when something goes wrong with their most popular franchise, and they move on to what makes them more money and what is successful. When was the last time that Nintendo actually recognized in any way that they made a game like Hotel Mario? that they made a reference to Mario Teaches Typing. That they made a reference to Sunshine outside of just putting in the 3D classics. When was the last time they did anything regarding 3D World outside of porting it? These might seem like more minor or, well, that didn't hurt them as much. Why are you going for those examples? People really like them. Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario 3D World are considered the black sheep of the Mario platformer franchise. And it shows when you really think about what Nintendo parades a lot more. Nintendo focuses on the now. They focus on what they are making right now, and they shove it down your throat. Whether you love or hate the Switch, the selling feature of the Switch is pushed at us. And I've said stuff like this all the time. But when Nintendo has a new gimmick with their console, they will force that gimmick down your throat and every game that is on it, whether it works or not. Show me a DS game that doesn't have touchscreen mechanics. Show me a Wii game that didn't force in motion controls in one way or another. Whether they were optional or not, show me a Wii game that didn't do motion controls. Show me a Wii U game that didn't try to find a way to make the gamepad compatible with the game. Sega once tried to say that Nintendo was an out-of-touch toy maker who was behind the times. I think that rings true more than any Nintendo fan would like to admit. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. That means that that's how Nintendo operates. Nintendo is unabashedly family-friendly. They desperately enforce their family widespread range. And they make sure that you feel it and you know it. They make sure not to push the envelope in any way. If Nintendo is Disney when it comes to family friendly, Sega is DreamWorks when it comes to family friendly. Because Sega knows how to take Sonic and get away with things, how to push the envelope, how to give new ideas. And when something doesn't work, they learn from it. DreamWorks learned from Shrek 3, and they made Shrek Forever After. Disney did not learn from The Black Cauldron. Disney did not learn from Atlantis, The Lost Empire, or Treasure Planet. They saw the failures as failures, and they tossed them aside for years. I talk so much about why I respect Sega, even with the mistakes they make, more than the mistakes Nintendo makes, because Sega respects me as a fan. Sega respects us using their creations in a specific manner. Nintendo does not. Nintendo is infamous for demolishing their fans' creations if it involves their characters. One of the earliest examples I have. The Sonic X Reanimated collab on YouTube got a personal comment from the official Sonic the Hedgehog YouTube page, talking about how impressed they were. The Kirby Reanimated collab got taken down by Nintendo. Just recently, we had the very popular and long-running video YouTuber, Did You Know Gaming, fight a copyright strike against Nintendo over a canceled game that they did not make. Did You Know Gaming won that fight. When have you ever heard Sega pull something like that? So when I go around whining about why Chris Pratt isn't a good Mario, but I stand by Ben Schwartz as an excellent Sonic. When I go around whining about how bland Mario is, when Sonic is a cocky, asinine, annoying little shit half the time, I stick to it. I stand by that. Because no matter if it's good or bad, Sega gives us something unique, something different. They create a new path. They experiment often. And I get so much more out of something Sonic related than I do out of something Mario related. Constantly. It's all too cliche to say this, but I fully stand by it. For good or bad, sickness or poor, chaos or unity, positive, negative, what have you. Sega does what Nintendo don't. Tasting sessions are one of the more recent additions to my channel. It's a series that I don't do as often as I'd like to do, and there's a lot of factors that go into it, but part of it is that I rely on having a lot to talk about sometimes, and tasting sessions isn't a series I can do a lot of often. As of the time of this anniversary, I have made 7 episodes of tasting session, and it started in the summer of 2022 when Mountain Dew Flamin' Hot was introduced. My close friends, Big Ounce and Master of Memes, like many things that they do for me, managed to get their hands on a bottle of the Mountain Dew Flamin' Hot, which I said if I'm gonna force myself to drink, I'm gonna make a video off of it, so I'll at least get something out of doing that. And they happened to get the Circle K exclusive flavor, Purple Thunder. So I thought about it, and I thought, well, I'm not the first person to think of this, but I could try these in a video, like actually try them and discuss them and what I like about them. When I was in middle school, I ended up doing a project and I studied about research chefs. And you might be unfamiliar. I've said this in multiple videos. Research chefs are the people who experiment with flavors into your favorite foods. So then when you think of like chips and you think about all the different flavors that go into those, all the different varieties and ideas, and you're like, how do they get those flavors into something like this? Those are the people who come up with and experiment with that. Is a type of food science that I have some passion for since my early research with it, so I can't help but geek out a little when I discuss it and experience it in my videos. And the original uploads of my first 2 tasting sessions, especially the first 2, went over extremely well. The first one was Mountain Dew Flamin' Hot and Purple Thunder. And I decided that, well, I'm not a drinker like at all, and I'm not a fan of alcohol, but I do like the idea of a shot glass. Like, just that little satisfying just of it, and seeing how quickly you can get it down. And earlier that year, in 2022, I had gone to Ireland out of the country for a special trip, Ireland and Scotland, and I ended up picking up a few different shot glasses just because that was special, and that's something people do, commemorative shot glasses. And things have happened to the other 2 since then, but this is the first one I ever purchased, and it says Ireland right on it. I purchased this in a store in Ireland, I don't remember which town, and it's just what I use for all my tasting sessions because it's a lot more fun than just having to try and flick the bottle back, usually. The first episode went over extremely well, which led me to do the second one, which I decided to try out some Mountain Dew flavors that I had never had before in my life, since I was slowly growing to realize how much fun not only could this series be, but how much there was to experience with it and try out for the first time that I might have never tried again. So my second tasting session was Mountain Dew Spark, the raspberry lemonade one, Mountain Dew Voltage, the raspberry one. Yeah, raspberry one, it's the blue one. And Mountain Dew Livewire, the orange one that I said somehow had the type of pulp that you get in low pulp orange juice, despite being a very thin drink. And then I tried something that multiple weeks later, it took me a long time to get around to it, I finally tried the Snapple Elements collection provided to me by another close friend of mine. And she gave to me the Snapple Air and Snapple Fire. And a few weeks later, at my local Dollar General, I found Snapple Earth. I don't know Snapple Water or Agua or whatever exists, But I did those 3, and I realized that, well, I could use a 4th one for that to just complete it. So I tried Mountain Dew Major Mountain to top off that episode. While I made a few Last Airbender references in it that didn't work as well as I would have liked it to, it was still a fun episode, even though I'm probably not drinking those ever again. And with that, it led to far from the most controversial thing I've said or done on my channel, but for some people at least, one of the big ones. My tasting session for the Mountain Dew Summer Baja Collection. This was roughly July or August when Mountain Dew had brought back Baja Blast officially, and in the process was introducing a whole bunch of other new exclusive flavors in the process. So for that video, I ended up doing the Mountain Dew Treasure, I think is the orange one, which is a mango flavored Mountain Dew Gold, a pineapple flavored Mountain Dew Maui Blast, the Dollar General exclusive pineapple Mountain Dew, and of course, Mountain Dew Baja Blast for the first time ever. I never was able to get my hands on a can of Deep Dive, which was the sweepstakes exclusive bottle, but I tried those 4. And in it, I said that Baja Blast barely tasted anything different to a basic Sierra Mist or Sprite, and I was thoroughly unimpressed by it. This upset a couple of people. My opinion has not changed, but it upset a couple people. After that, I didn't go on a hiatus, but I just took a long time to get back to doing tasting sessions until about roughly 2 months later. Well, 2 months in terms of the re-uploads on this channel are concerned, but far longer than that in real life, where I tried a soda that had actually been around for a very long time, Pepsi Nitro. It was an interesting experience. As of now, that is the best performing tasting session I've done on my channel, but it was a very interesting experience to be sure. I had never had something like it, a draft cola. It was a fun experience, and it was good to be doing tasting sessions again. But it took me a very long while after that episode to finally get focused again. And when I did get back, there's only so much I can say about October of 2022 for me. I've said it repeatedly, but getting sick for 2 weeks straight just did this to me on my channel and did this to me in real life. I got sick at probably one of the worst times I could have, honestly, and it really just knocked any sense of motivation and self-discipline out of me when it really shouldn't have. I tried to come back from it as best as I could. I got some good things done, and there's a lot that I failed to do. I wish I could have done better. And that's why the Halloween special tasting session ended up being in early November, where I tried the 2022 edition of Mountain Dew Voodoo, having only previously tried the 2021 version last year, and I was unable to find the 4-pack re-release of all 4 Voodoos, nor was I able to purchase the Voodoo mascot costume from Spirit Halloween, because that was $80 flipping for a costume I was going to get one use out of. Since then, I have been putting off doing Mountain Dew Overdrive, which I finally did last week. I've just been putting that one off for a very long time, just from a lack of focus and needing to do others. And like I said in that video, I have a bottle of Coca-Cola Dream World that I have never gotten to. Like a lot of my channel, I don't get much feedback, or at least not many comments or feedback yet on my channel, and I know that part of that is just being a smaller YouTuber. That's just, you gotta get used to that, especially when you want to try and grow and expand, but I heavily rely on a lot of feedback, and I get a lot of my energy from comments and feedback, and just not just people telling me, praising me, but just seeing other people benefit and enjoy from what I created. And tasting sessions are definitely a good example of how that feels, because if I don't have a drink I haven't tried before that sounds interesting, I don't have jokes I can make about in the process, much like my original Mountain Dew stand-up video from a long while back, then it's really hard to get a lot of content out of it. It becomes a very condensed episode, and it becomes hard to talk a lot about it, because It's hard to describe, oh, it's sweet like this, or I like the flavors like this, at least currently. But in that struggle, it provides a good sense of challenge. It makes me analyze things and critique them a lot better and use more descriptive language like any good reviewer should do. Being able to define more of why we enjoy something or dislike something is a crucial part of our experience as people and as consumers. And if we just do it because it makes us feel good, but we can't describe what that means beyond it makes us feel good, then it becomes a combination of comfort food and junk food for our mind, where we enjoy it because we don't have to think about it. We just eat it and it makes us happy. And that's not to say you can't have anything like that, but when that's all you're getting out of it, then you're not rotting your brain because you're eating things that are bad for you. You're rotting your brain because you're not experiencing something different and unique that may give you a more fulfilling experience in the process. Or at least that's how I see it. Quick Dancing is the longest running series on my channel. It is still to me the stupidest named series on my channel, because the history of this series is almost even more interesting than the history of my channel's beginning itself. Like I have said in the past, after I made my first videos regarding Smash Brothers and Byleth's release in Smash Ultimate, I had tech issues that I couldn't figure out how to control with YouTube Studio, and it kept me off of uploading much of anything for over a month. Well, nearly a month. But in that time, I decided to still at least try to record things. I have grown to have a distinct love for dancing in multiple forms. It reflects my background in theater and a million other things. But beyond that, I have my own passion for dancing that, like many people, is that kind where you just let the music do what you want. You do what you want with the music, and as the phrase goes, dance like nobody's watching. I don't dance like nobody's watching because I often dance when other people are around, but I dance like nobody's judging, because I have that level, not of self-confidence, but lack of self-humility. That makes me not the least bit concerned if people think I look stupid when I'm dancing, as long as I'm enjoying it. And that was the mindset that translated into quick dancing for me. The first video I ever did a quick dancing on was Rock You Like a Hurricane by Scorpions. I cannot tell you for the life of me why it was that song. I really don't have an explanation. I just really like that song, and it just was fun to do. So, like a lot of my early content, and even to this day, I just chose a place that had a wide enough space that I could work with, even if it wasn't the least bit private or closed off, and I just danced. I happened to have on my leather jacket, which became a staple in many of the first year of my content, just because I really liked that jacket, and I just danced. The name Quick Dancing came about because I literally needed a placeholder title. I wasn't sure what to do, and I just wanted a placeholder title, and then it would say which song it was. I didn't really like the name. I thought it was a stupid, very basic name. But for some reason, it really stuck with me. Not only could I not think of something that I liked better, there was something really genuine about it. I do dance quickly. I move very fast. I move around a lot. I'm not concerned about what others do, and I don't dance slowly very well. I dance quickly. I let the energy overwhelm me. So it worked. But there was a core issue. Well, there was plenty of core issues. This was my first year still, but beyond the lack of recording and editing software, I was playing with fire, because 85% of the songs I've ever done quick dancing on are copyrighted music. I most of the time just brush this off as, haha, I don't get monetized. They can't do anything to stop me. There have been a total of 3 times a copyright claim, not a strike, has ever affected me. The first one was with a Daft Punk song, the first time I did it, and it got partially blocked in some countries. It did not seem to affect the US. Second time is when I did quick dancing on the song Hungry Like the Wolf by Duran Duran. That got blocked and couldn't be uploaded twice in a row. And then the third time happened with my Mad Doctor video, which I discuss later. For the most part, it will just say copyright claim on it, and I don't monetize my content because I can't, because I'm not even a YouTube partner yet or anywhere close. I'm not even 10% of the way there. So it didn't really affect me or concern me all that much. And I think quick dancing is one of the core aspects of how I got here today. It is not only unquestionably the series I've done the most about, but it's also probably the most popular one I've done. I don't get a lot of suggestions or a lot of recommendations, even when I ask for them or offer them. But I did consistently I would sometimes get recommendations for quick dancing for songs people would like me to do. And my rule was, I'll listen to it. If I like it, then I'll do it. If I don't like it or I just can't get into the rhythm of it, then I can't do it. I'm sorry. While Smash Brothers stirred my channel, I think quick dancing is what pushed it forward. Because there's one point in particular, one specific weekend, that is not only the most important part of my first year of YouTube, but one of the most influential and important parts of my entire career on YouTube in the past 3 years. Valentine's Day weekend 2020. A month before the COVID-19 pandemic started to hit America, a movie called Sonic the Hedgehog by Paramount was coming out that weekend. I happened to have a rehearsal at school that weekend on Saturday. And it was at the school, so my usual recording spot was there. And I thought, well, that video was fun to do. What if I started doing more? So I did 3 that day. One was for Valentine's Day, the song Owner of a Lonely Heart by the band Yes. The second was Knuckles' theme from Sonic Adventure 2, as a way to celebrate the Sonic movie coming out. And the third one was another way to celebrate the Sonic movie coming out, because I'm still not sure why I thought this was a good idea, but I'm amazed it worked out as well as it did. It was a quick dancing on Mario vs. Sonic cartoon beatbox battles by Verbal Ace, one of my favorite all-time YouTubers. That video got over 120 views before I deleted it. Keep in mind, I had been doing YouTube for less than a month when that happened. And those videos that day, those 3, when I got them uploaded, were just this driving force of, do this. You can do this. You have people that will watch you. You have friends. You want to do this. You can do this. So do it. Had I not uploaded those, had I never done those quick dancings, I don't think I would be in this position today. I don't think I would have come as far as I did. Because quick dancing was a way to just let my free spirit go out. Just get excited and just blast the doors open with what I could do. Just go wild, go crazy, just be genuine. And both with all of the ones I used to have that are now permanently lost to time, the ones I've recovered, and the ones I've done, it still remains probably one of the most important driving forces in getting me to start doing YouTube and take it seriously and really think, yes, I can do this. So I've said it and I have to say it again. Thank you, Verbal Ace. You have been such an inspiration and influence and support to my channel, whether you intended to or even knew. And I owe you so much because of it. I don't know how many more quick dancings I'll make. I don't know if I'll make more with just me or if I'll start doing more with everyone else. The one I did with PAULK, with AJR's 3 o'clock things, was insanely hard to edit. It pales in comparison to what I've had to try and do for this celebration, but it was really difficult to edit and hard to think about and map out and really think, how am I going to make these mesh better? But I look at all of them and I think back to all of it. And even with the ones I don't have, I can see the ones that are made, that are still here. And I still can't believe it. I never could have guessed in middle school that someday people would want to watch me dance, would just want to watch me dance freely to music that I like, and they would enjoy it. I couldn't have predicted it then. So all I can do is think that happened now. Trust me, that's nowhere near the strangest intro I've ever done. Beatboxing, honestly, more than anything else I've done on this channel, I don't think I would have ever guessed has become such a huge part of me. I had very little experience with beatboxing whatsoever until I discovered Verbal Ace's videos. And like the majority of his fans, I discovered him through cartoon beatbox battles. And over time, like about nearly 2 years, I decided to finally at least try it. And the ones I started with stemmed from a project that I have thought about and tossed aside and molded and thought about for a very long time. Ever since roughly episode 10 of Cartoon Beatbox Battles came out, back right before March 2020, roughly, if I remember correctly. Right after that, I started thinking about the idea of at least trying to do my own version, my own fan-made episode. And the characters I had in mind were Tails the Fox from Sonic and Conquer the Red Squirrel, one of my favorite characters of all time. So I wrote a script, and I wrote my own beatboxes. I had very little experience with song parodying or writing different lyrics, but I had just enough. I thought some songs that might fit well with the characters. I thought about how they would interact and react off each other, and I had some good stuff. There was just a few major problems. I couldn't edit to save my life. There was no way I could draw anything like that. There was no way in hell I could animate anything like that. And I had no contacts or funds to get someone else to help me with that. Well, time passed, and times change. And I got more editing. I got better at editing. I got a little better at beatboxing. And I found someone special who knew quite a bit about drawing. Roughly early 2022, if I remember correctly, I started to attempt my own cartoon beatbox solos. I wanted to make it really clear when I started it that I was not trying to rip off Verbal Ace or that I was trying to imitate his style, as a lot of other YouTubers do, with abysmal results sometimes, but sometimes blatantly trying to rip him off. So I decided, instead of the overly ambitious concept of doing an entire episode, why not exclusively do the solos from scratch, the same way he does solos for all of his after the official episodes come out. So I worked with a very talented girl named Kieran_Isabel on Insta. And for every beatbox solo, I thought about what I wanted the cover page to look like. I did a rough sketch and a description, and I'd give it to her. And a few weeks later, depending on her time, she was able to provide something with me. If I liked how it looked, I asked her to finish coloring it, and then we would have it ready to go. I still think that the cover art is the best thing to come out of this series that I've done. I've enjoyed doing them, but the cover art, at least for me, is the part I like best. And I probably like it best because I'm not the one who made it. Cartoon beatbox solos, especially the first two, really underscore how much, in terms of editing, I have had to try and learn and really, really needed to get better at doing. I wouldn't be surprised if I finally go back and start remastering them, as in actually edit them correctly. Because while parts of it are correct, none of it pairs very well. It doesn't flow nearly as well as I wish it did. And unsurprisingly, I don't imitate characters very well, so most of them just sound like a different version of my voice, which is to be expected. Because getting the lyrics and the beatbox right was my priority over the voices to start with. At this time, I have done 6, spread across 3 two-person fights. Tails versus Conquer, Deadpool versus Paul W., because I'm an egotist, and Jack Skellington versus Ghost Rider. And if some of you have seen my video when I discussed ideas and concepts for Robo Aces Season 2 cartoon beatbox battles that I'd love to see, you will remember that I suggested some of these. Because I thought that a mashup like Skellington and Ghost Rider could be really fun and really cool. Every drawing that isn't a fan drawing sent to me on my channel that isn't my own, I asked someone else to do, and I designed the original version of. That doesn't mean that what they made is exactly what I made, just better. That means that I did the sketch of how I wanted the characters to look and the actions I wanted them to be doing, and then the writers and then the artists adapted it and turned it into theirs. And almost always that is translated extremely well, and it's gone across what my original intention was. It hasn't always gone across my original intention, but that's far more about me than it is about them. It's really hard to say which one I like best, because I have a personal connection to all of them. I think the song choices were all good, and I'm really proud of the lyrics. Some of them took a long time to write and were hard to figure out, especially since it's hard to decide a song that, 1, fits with the character, and 2, I can do good lyrics around. But all of them, I think, worked out really well, all things considered. While Quick Dancing has the most content, which is part of how it's the best dealing series on my channel, after that, the original uploads of my cartoon beatbox solos, for the most part, got extremely good views, at least by my standards, in terms of channel reach, not my standards as in terms of me. As of now, like any re-upload, the views are ludicrously smaller, but that is what it is. But it's another example of me being able to look at something and just really see not only how well it turned out, all things considered, but to think about what I originally wanted to do, even when I knew I couldn't get there. And I'm able to look at what I accomplished, what I actually did. I made that happen. And I'm able to look at those and say, that's better than you probably thought you would have done, kid. I personally think that there is no greater critic of a work of art than the person who created it. And my relationship with my channel overall is the perfect example of that statement. There's so much of it I can look at in terms of what I actually made, and I can look and I say, that looks so stupid, or that's so obvious, or why did I say that, or really, that was so obvious, or why can't I edit? And then someone else will look and say, that's really good. Or someone will say, I see your potential. For such a small channel, you got a lot of talent and a lot of potential. And hearing something like that means far more than any play button that would just hang up on my wall. Because hearing someone actually say that to me means that they get something out of my content beyond something to put on as white noise. And I don't think Verbal Ace will ever see these. I don't think he'll ever see them. Especially, I prefer if he didn't see the worst versions. But if for somehow he saw them, I hope he'd at least like them. Because that would be more than enough for how much he's done for me already. I'm starting this section off with talking about PAULK because it's going to be relatively short, as I've wanted to tell the full origin of PAULK for a long time, and that's a topic for a longer video another day. But we can definitely talk about some of the bullet points here. I am not a huge fan of evil twin stories. Evil clones, the evil twin, just the exact opposite of me, who I have to destroy. Usually. I've seen some examples that worked really well, but most of the time it's just not my cup of tea. PAULK is inspired by a lot of different characters. But first and foremost, his origin is entirely rooted in Bendy and the Ink Machine. After Cuphead, after my huge love of Cuphead, I ended up really getting into Bendy and the Ink Machine. And before I started my channel, PAULK's character developed from that world. From a concept in where he became a separate version of me. When I originally designed it, the idea was that PAULK is my shadow, torn from me physically and turned into a flesh and blood character by Bendy in the world of Bendy and the Ink Machine. And he feels directly betrayed by me and goes on a personal vendetta to kill me and get proper revenge. And over the course of the game, in my version of it, he slowly comes to grips, realizes it wasn't completely my fault, as I take ownership for what was mine. And we form a bond. PAULK in the early years especially, in the early months especially, became a bit of a venting bag for me. I started developing at a time when I was very frustrated with myself in my life, and a way to get out catharsis and relieve stress cathartically was to pretty grimly and definitely unhealthily draw my frustrations and physical harm to me in over-exaggerated ways that wouldn't be possible in real life, but still do it. Like just literally drawing dozens of me's, how I drew myself, just utterly harming, endlessly harming each other, just out of stress and resentment. So PAULK sort of became that because instead of me directly beating up myself, I now had an outlet, someone who resented me for good reasons that I could use instead. But over time, PAULK really developed from there. His name, like a lot of things, came about in a relatively stupid way. I'm going to play the clip first, and then explain it to you.
Hey, we got to go fight the Rhino. Yikes. Thought he was just gonna crush their heads.
Pick on someone your own size, Rhino.
There is no one my size, Hulk.
Hulk?
Or
Peter.
we could just talk it out. Rhino.
I swear, when I first heard that clip, I thought Rhino was saying PAULK, like punk in Russian, and I swear I heard an L in there. So I thought, that spells out Paul with a K at the end. PAULK. Kind of like an extra letter to Paul that had a little of a bite to it, like a little bit, like, because a lot of evil twins have a slightly different name than the main character. That's where PAULK got his name from. A lot of people struggle pronouncing it for the first time. I've seen a lot of people mess it up. And I get that. It makes sense. It's not very clear on paper. Bill Watterson, the creator of Calvin and Hobbes, said in the 10th anniversary celebration book, I wouldn't want Calvin in my house, but on paper, he helps me sort through my life and understand it better. I don't think I would want PAULK in real life. I don't think I could genuinely work with that. I don't think we would survive with each other, and I genuinely don't think I would be able to move past my own insecurities and anxieties and stress and resentments that I caused to myself, and I don't think he would be able to help nearly as much. But by using him as a persona on paper and on camera often, he helps me sort out my life, who I choose to be and who I want to be, and help me deal with that concept far more than I would have ever guessed. And it's really interesting to think that it started from my shadow becoming alive and wanting to kill me, to becoming both the angel and the devil on my shoulder combined. Like a dark, more violent guardian angel who genuinely cares. Or I could just be making up imaginary friends. It is what it is. Weekend Deadpool is the most spontaneous and random piece of my channel as far as inception and origin came about. Weekend Deadpool first started as an idea when I went to a block party at my new school, a public block party, but I didn't know anyone yet. So I thought, well, do I have to go there as me? Why not be one of those guys that comes in a costume and no one knows who they are, but they still have a fun time? So I thought about it, and I thought, well, my Deadpool mask is fun. That's something I could do, but I don't want to just be a Deadpool mask. That's really obvious and it might come across as creepy. So I put on my bathrobe that I didn't wear very often, but it was really nice, and I thought that was just kind of a funny visual. I got one picture from the night, and I had a really great time. People really liked it and thought it was really cool. The following day, they were having a silent disco thing, a concept I don't like, but I experienced it anyway. But then I thought, I want to add something a little more to it. I don't want to just be seen as a Deadpool guy. What if I added a little more to it, something sillier, just something a little different? And I have no idea where this came from. I decided to wear my Raccoon Mario hat. I got this hat at a GameStop for roughly, I think, 25 or 30 bucks. Way too expensive for what it is, but a really nice raccoon hat from Super Mario Bros. 3. I've used this in, I think, 2 videos, but I really, really like this hat. And the pointy ears are just what makes it so special, because it's not just a generic Mario hat, it's a raccoon hat like this, which for some reason I just really like. I thought, well, actually, that's kind of a funny idea. I really like that. What if I just did that? With a bathrobe? And it worked out. People liked it, and I stuck with it. I really liked the concept. It took me about, I'd say, a month and a half before I did anything more with the character, beyond thinking about that. And then I decided, well, after a lot of thinking, I thought, he could be a fun addition. He could be the outgoing, slightly naive, but super friendly and happy-go-lucky, over-exuberantly positive character to the channel, because at that time it had just been me and PAULK for a very long time. And I liked it so much that I finally introduced him in a video. Like, virtually no one said much about him. No one seemed to have any real opinions. I wasn't sure if people could tell it was supposed to be a different character or just me in a costume or whatever. I think the name Weekend Deadpool, or I say Weekend DP for short, constantly, came from just, well, he's in a bathroom. He's just like, how I described it early on is that he is casual. He is like an overly casual Deadpool, like off-duty. He's just wearing his bathrobe. It's a Saturday morning, and he's just wearing casual clothing. He's not going to help. He's not going to help with anything. He's just living away how he wants to, getting his coffee, eating some tacos, whatever. And that idea just really has evolved, and it's become a lot of fun to think about and create him. I have gone to 2 conventions as Weekend Deadpool. It's a lot more fun and an easier way to at least kind of promote my channel than trying to go as me and promote it in some weird way, or go as PAULK and explain who I am. Yeah, it's an identifiable character, although of course a lot of people mistake it. Constantly I hear Deadpool with a Mario hat, which I get, but I'm working to develop it more. The idea with Weekend Deadpool is he's not the little kid. He's the naive adult. He's the friendly, innocent, constantly infectiously positive one. He has probably more weapons than anyone else on the show at this point, as he has a slingshot made from a 2-pointed stick I found on the grass one day that I just wrapped tape around. I wrapped tape around Weekend Deadpool on it, and I found that stick a little after I created him, and I just thought that was a funny idea. I have always been drawn to, in YouTube, especially the creators that did it all the way back to the beginning, where you can see the imperfections and the unintentional cheapness, where it's obvious, where like for a sword fight, it's obvious they're using plastic swords, or they're using Nerf guns instead of real guns because that's what you have. Just stuff like that I've always admired, and it is also a send up to one of my favorite comic book covers of all time. This is Hawkeye versus Deadpool, and this cover perfectly sums up everything I love about Deadpool. It's not just, oh haha, look, he's holding he's shooting a dark Nerf gun and Hawkeye's shooting real arrows. No. Deadpool's in the air with this giant foam dart crossbow, and there starts strewn everywhere, and he has covered with arrows. Like there's arrows all over him in the process. It's a great shot. It's a classic duality versus shot that I just adore. And it's that kind of mentality that makes me work with Weekend Deadpool so much and love having him as a character. The hat doesn't stay on very well because of the mask, especially when I'm dancing, but that's just part of the gag, honestly. One of the most important things about having other characters on your YouTube channel, especially when you play those characters, is that you can't wink at the camera too much. You have to really sell that you are supposed to be a different character, and that makes it a lot more fun to the audience and a lot more fun for yourself. Adam West once said, when doing the Batman show, that he knew he needed to be that grounded character. He couldn't wink at the camera too much and be like, I know this is silly, right, guys? Just with such a campy, over-the-top show, he had to be serious, but not stoic. He couldn't be a robot on personality-less shell, or that way he would be extremely boring and we wouldn't want to follow him. But no, he keeps a grounded edge and a determination in every step he takes that is slightly more reserved than Burt Ward's Robin, that really helped the series hold on together. If he was too silly and over the top, the entire series would have crumbled and fallen apart because it would have been too campy all around, which is an issue that Batman and Robin suffered. Because Clooney and Chris O'Donnell weren't grounded enough to support any of the insanity around them, along with everything else. That's why with everyone I play on my channel, I try to really dig into it. Even when the voice is obviously me, even when it's just me wearing something else, you have to make it clear you're supposed to be a different character, because that is what's fun. When I'm playing PAULK, I have to get deeper. I try to pull in my voice. I try to whisper but not mumble. I try to really show that dark intensity and grim outlook that I occasionally have myself. On Weekend Deadpool, I'm constantly excited and constantly exuberant, just happy to do whatever I want. I make my bad jokes, I toss around whatever I want, get excited about whatever I get to do. It all works like that. When I'm playing Logan, never mind. I don't have to talk about it. See? I deliberately started to act like him to give an example of what that's supposed to be like. But if I go too silly, or give a little, every time I make an obvious reference, or I reference someone else, like, gee, I hope Logan isn't busy right now. Gee, I wonder what Weekend Deadpool's up to right now. It becomes gimmicky, very distracting, and nowhere near as much fun. At least that's how I perceive it. I could play 6 different characters on this channel, and all of them I would do my best to make sure weren't just me wearing a different shirt. Because that's the importance to good characters, especially when you have to be a multiple trick actor. And when it doesn't work out, well, you always still have the props. Logan Emo is obviously the most recent addition to my channel, at least officially. But at least as an idea, he has been around almost as long as Weekend Deadpool. The idea for emo, as I've discussed with my friends multiple times, stems from my experience as a 2000s kid, and especially looking back on it in multiple realms, including animation, music, the culture, and plenty of other things. What I find most interesting about the 2000s, which isn't a decade I'm particularly fond of in a lot of respects, is that in terms of emos, it was that gap between when grunge music was becoming emo music and punk emo became a thing. I don't consider Green Day an emo band. I do consider Blink-182 an emo band. But I think Green Day can be definitely described as a punk rock band, and that can fall into the camp of emo. I once said that the difference between a goth and an emo is that a goth doesn't care what you think about their emotions. Emos think it is their job to tell you their emotions. If Wednesday Addams is a goth, then Linkin Park are emos. And that is the concept I try to go with emo as a character. One of my biggest influences for emo's character, especially his mannerisms, comes from my experience with Scott Pilgrim, because that was one of my biggest exposures to 2000s culture in a lot of ways. The rebellious side of us in that time, the standing up against the people who just don't get us, who don't care. In the 90s, it was all anti-authority, loud, in your face. Adults just don't get us. Radical, extreme. Slang like that. 2000s, it's more reserved to a point, and when it's loud and in your face, it is more rant and exasperation, like trying to purge a demon out of you with anger and rage. Just the yelling comes from trying to get out our emotions the only way we know how, in that sense. Whereas goths just either get over it or choose to ignore their emotions. Like a slightly less intense example of depression, if you will. Because depression is the absence of emotions overall. Feeling hollow, feeling empty. Emo is where rage is a stress relief for grief, uncertainty, and insecurities. So Logan Emo as a character, at least for me, is a hybrid of goths and emos. I knew if I was going to have a character like Logan, I was going to need to make it clear that there was a lot more than just me wearing eye black. So part of why it has taken so long for him to debut on the channel is that it was so hard to find all the necessary pieces. Luckily, over the past 2 weeks, I've finally gotten at least some of the pieces I wanted. I find that a plain spiked choker is one of the easiest ways to identify if someone is part of the emo or goth community. It's a classic staple of punk and metal and rebellion and just anarchy and resistance. It's an absolute staple. And I really don't see how no comic book or video game or whatever's thought of this yet, of the idea of throwing it at someone and it wraps around them inside first. Come on, that'd be pretty cool. But I didn't get the choker first. I ended up picking up these bracelets first. And I really like these bracelets. I think they're really cool. And they're different spikes on each one, which just happens to be the way they were sold. But they add an extra part of Emo's character, and I think it works a lot better that way. One of my biggest concerns with developing Emo, though, that I want to make sure isn't clear in the future too much, is that Emo not be mistaken for another version of PAULK. PAULK is supposed to be a demon. He is like a darker, more hostile and violent version of a guardian angel for me at this point. Emo is just a young adult dealing with life. He hangs around us because we are the only people that he knows who accept him as he is and don't tell him to become something he isn't. Something not just goss and emos, but all nerds, geeks, and people like us face constantly. I'll make this part brief. Sexuality and gender identification, I don't screw around with. And because of that, I have experienced and learned a lot in the past few years beyond just the LGBTQA plus community. And because of that, I have done some thinking. First and foremost, I am a cisgender straight ally. I don't screw around with homophobia. I don't tolerate it, and I don't screw around with people who think it's okay or cling to it. Deadpool, at least in the comics, is a pansexual character. He decided not to go that route in the movies, but he's a pansexual character. I have known bisexual friends. I have known transgender friends. I have known multiple kinds. I've known asexual friends. I've known a lot. I won't name their names to respect their privacy. But I've known quite a bit and gotten to learn a lot more. Before I knew what the term straight ally was, my friends called me the token straight one, since I hung out with so many different friends. I am uncertain about the idea of emo being a bisexual character. But the more I think about it, the more I want to do it for a key reason. Emo as a character comes from the early 2000s. That was not a time for gay representation like it is today, of any kind. That's a time when the final season of Sailor Moon wasn't shown in the US because it introduced the idea of transgender characters. And it changed two characters on the show from being lesbians to being cousins, despite the fact that they had already shared an on-screen kiss together. Because the 2000s didn't welcome that kind of change yet. This is a time where a word like retarded was still frequently used. We don't exactly play with that nowadays, do we? So, at least my thinking is, with making emo bisexual, if I do go that route, it helps give an example as best as I can do. Remember, I'm just one guy. Of the difference of that time period compared to ours and the difficulties of figuring it out. Not only of figuring out yourself, but of those who want to support you, knowing how to successfully support you when they don't identify the same way. Even with good intentions, whether or not they understand how best to help you and support you. Rock on. Now it's all led back up to here. In my third year of YouTube, I desperately tried to make up for the lackluster performance in my second year and the intense mistakes I made then. when in the second year I was trying to correct the mistakes of my first year, but separately made worse mistakes in my own life. I created several new series this year. Really tried to expand my craft, even with the shortcomings and hardships that fell on me. And it's because of the people who watch me and support me that I was able to do it. All of you are the ones who got me here, who always give me such beautiful and incredible feedback of all kinds. This is a comment from a Discord server I used to belong to when making the Epic Mickey video. And it floored me how personal and kind this was. And it's not just the people who watch me. This next clip was one of the most special moments of my entire career on YouTube.
Thanks to a fan of mine, I was able to get this fixed. So this is a shout out to Paul Westerfield for introducing me to a friend of his who owned a 3D printer and was able to get this done. And that is Master of the Memes. So both of you guys, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. You guys have helped restore a part of my childhood, and I gotta say, it's been a pretty good Christmas present. Even though I paid a king's ransom to get this done, but you know, it was all worth it.
Driver Joe, thank you so much. I have never received a shout out and a thank you like that. And it truly warms my heart so much. In many ways, I look at my channel like I look at my current headphones. These are my blue wireless Bluetooth headphones. When I first started my channel, I was working off of a pair of wired Spider-Man headphones, which in turn had been a replacement to my initial green headphones that I dearly loved and accidentally broke coming into sophomore year before I started YouTube. I look at my channel much like these headphones. They're extremely reliable. They've done so much for me. I've given a lot. I put a lot into it, and they replace a past I can no longer return to. They are filled with intense wear and tear, but they still run extremely well, and they are still a crucial part of who I am today and what makes me tick. So as I look back on all of this, and I think back to the beginning, what went on in the middle, what may happen in the end, and where I am now, I know that I could not have done it alone. Even with all of it that I do on my own, I could not have done it without the other members of this channel. And I couldn't have done it without all of you. Whether you've been with me since the very start, only joined recently, personally given creations made for this video, or just watched happily, been a regular subscriber, consistently liking, or providing comments, or if you just drop in, give it a watch, and you can move on. I have to give you my utmost thanks. Because you, whoever you are watching this, never forget this. You are valued. You are important. You are special, not in some way that society tells you. But you are special because you know how you work and what is best and what you enjoy most. And only you know that best. And you are always valued by me. You are always appreciated, no matter who you are. Never forget that. I don't have some special outro. I don't have a normal outro for my videos. I barely have an intro. I began my first video ever in conflicted thought, saying, so it's come to this, folks. 3 years later, I couldn't have been happier, knowing that it would come to this. Thank you all for watching. I can't wait to see you next time. Well, everyone, we made it through the whole thing, and we all survived. I think we all deserve a proper toast. To the channel, and to all of us. Bye, Emo. Well, bye, DP. Hey, PAULK? Yes, Paul. Nothing.